Hey everybody, this is graphic designer Roberto Blake, and in today's video I'm going to talk about how you find your own visual style as a graphic designer or as a digital artist. Now if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to get new graphic design videos from me, usually on Mondays. I do release some throughout the week sporadically, but I definitely release something on Mondays. So make sure you subscribe to be able to get those videos every week. So let's talk about how you can find your visual style. Something that came up in a conversation between me and my friend Ryan Smith over at Ad House was the fact that I have a lot of different visual styles. And if you've been watching any of like my Photoshop stuff, then you already know that if you've done that or if you've been to the website. The way that I came about defining different visual styles for myself, and I didn't discover I was really doing this until much later on in my experience in my career. It was sometime after college because none of my professors actually ever explained this once to me, not once in any lecture I ever had, was that the simplest thing to do is to figure out 3 defining aspects of the type of work that you're doing in a given situation. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. When I'm doing certain types of Photoshop work, you'll notice a trend or a consistent pattern depending on what type of project it is, even if it's all Photoshop stuff. Primary example, if I'm doing my sports stuff, 3 of the things that I would say are adjectives that define the style of work we're talking about when I do that are that it's sharp, dynamic, and gritty. When you look at these things, I usually have done some sharpening on all the features that really need to be defined. There's a lot of dodging and burning. It's high contrast. I've adjusted the tonal range and it's very stark. And that's something that is, consistent whenever I'm doing that type of work. When I'm doing digital artwork that involves the female figure, my work style changes completely. Instead, it becomes soft, it becomes vibrant, and it becomes warm. Whenever I'm doing that type of work, as you can see, I like to do things where I have a huge array of colors, and I try to do what I refer to as painting with light to really accentuate a lot of different things that I want to draw attention to and to focus the eye. I use vibrant colors. Of course, there's a lot of contrast in there, but I also try to pull back on some of the shadows, especially in the facial features. So that's consistent when I'm doing that type of work. When I'm trying to do things that involve dancers in terms of photo manipulation, I make sure that there's a high volume of energy. When I'm doing photo manipulations that involve dancers, my style changes yet again. If I had to use 3 words to define it, it would be that it's energetic, it's bright, and it's colorful, and that's consistent as well. I do that in almost every single piece that you see like that. When I'm doing those things involving the dancers, I try to convey, even if it's very subtle and sometimes it's less than subtle, I try to convey movement and energy, and you can really just see that and feel it in the pieces because of the way that I'm approaching it. So when you want to create a style, a lot of times bringing it down to 3 adjectives really is going to help you lock it in, define it, and make it consistent, and make sure that you're thinking about those things when you're doing your work. Now, it took me a while to grasp that that's what I was doing intuitively, but once I realized that, I made a point of sticking with it because it was something that was working very well for me. But this doesn't just apply to Photoshop. I have a very distinctive style as well when I'm doing my print work. When I'm doing corporate print work, I go for elegant, clean, minimalist. I have some very specific things that I'm doing with that, and there are very specific typefaces and combinations of typefaces that I use. When you're doing anything that involves print, instead of photography, your visual style and your approach to it is going to be very different because you're going to be focused on the way that you do typography, the way that you do lockups, the way that you handle the tracking and kerning. You're going to have your own style where that's concerned, and that's going to define the look of everything. So you want to be focused on that. You want to be focused on the type of colors that you're using. You're going to be focusing on the spatial relationships that you use. Do you use certain types of grids? What are your personal proportions? I actually have some of mine that I use. I'm a big fan of doubles and triples. So when I do certain things, the fonts and the relationships between a lot of the fonts between body copy, headlines, and subheadlines, I use a system like that. So there are different number combinations and values that I specifically use that ultimately define my style and approach to typography and layout, and that's unique to me. So that's something you're going to want to look at. There are types of colors and color ranges that I use and palettes that I stick to in different combinations. There's just kind of this feeling that I'm a fan of certain color combinations. There's a range of pastels that I like to use, depending on the type of brand that it is, and depending on what's needed. I actually have a ton of personal palettes that I have saved that I developed in Adobe Cooler that I use specific to the kind of work that I do. And that's another tool that helps me just create my own visual style. So again, this is, what I would say to help you develop your own visual style. Always try to work, in my opinion, in threes. Find 3 elements or aspects or adjectives to define some part of the work you're doing. Focus in on that, and when you build those things up or interchange them in combination, you'll get your own visual style. Even the things that we go down to and how I convey these different things. When I'm talking about, okay, well, what makes something energetic? For me, a lot of times that'll have to do with conveying movement, using certain colors and shapes, a level of brightness to the tonality. That for me is going to quote unquote create the sense of something being energetic. Or it might be a specific effect, like it might be flares, it might be backlighting, it might be starbursts, it might be vectors, it might be light trails, it might be light swirls. Those kind of things are what I determined energetic means. For you, it might be something else. It might be an actual type of element that you want to incorporate or use. It might be a texture that you want to use. So those are the values. Same thing with, okay, what makes something gritty? If I'm trying to do that gritty style, does that mean that I'm using distressed fonts? Does that mean that I'm using custom grunge brushes? What do those things mean to me specifically, and how do I define them? That's how you create your own unique visual style. Well, I hope you guys learned something useful from this video. I hope that this will help you develop your own visual style and give you some guidelines. If you have any more questions about visual style, go ahead and feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Also, if you're a designer with any tips on how other people can develop or build a unique visual style of their own, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. Anyway, like this video if you like it, don't forget to subscribe, and as always, you guys, thanks for watching.